Hollywood's Sunset Strip has always been LA's center for nightlife and trendsetters. And for the past 40 years, the cornerstone of that scene has been the Whisky A Go-Go.
Whiskey's world famous. It's always going to be there. You know, it's always like, it's like a beacon.
You see the people hanging out outside, and you kind of hear those sounds coming from inside, and you just, you know, you got to stop.
The whiskey, man, you think about Slayer, you think about Metallica, you think about The Doors, Jimi Hendrix, Led Zeppelin, you think about everybody in the scene, man.
You still feel the ghosts. You feel a lot of the ghosts around, which I like, you know. I think the vibes are still here.
Thank you. This is the world-famous Whisky A Go-Go on the Sunset Strip in Los Angeles, California. A lot's changed, but the music is still here. Unfortunately, the Go-Go Girls are gone. Those cages that they danced in. The Doors were the house band, summer of 1966. Jim Morrison had a good time with the Go-Go Girls. They liked him a lot. The Booths are gone. Psychedelic is gone. The Sunset Strip was psychedelic in the summer of 1966. But before that, it was the era of rock and roll meets Hollywood.
And here's the world-famous Whisky A Go-Go on the Strip. A favorite dancing spot for both the mods and movie stars who want to get it on.
Everybody who was anybody came into the Whisky and partied in those days.
Peter Fonda and Sal Mineo and Sean Connery and all these actors that would hang around.
I mean, you would go there to be seen and to see people.
There's an amazing convergence of attitudes and people. And it was just a wild scene.
The Whisky A Go-Go opened in January of 1964 as America's first discotheque. Female DJs played records in a booth suspended high over the dance floor. Their elevated gyrations earned them the name Go-Go Girls. Live music was provided by a young R&B cover artist named Johnny Rivers. He played rock and roll and blues songs to a dancing, drinking-age crowd. Nothing like this had ever been seen on the Sunset Strip.
Johnny Rivers at the Whisky A Go-Go was a big deal. Then they started having record success. Johnny Rivers live at the Whisky A Go-Go. That did not hurt their club. More Johnny Rivers at the Whisky A Go-Go. I mean, you know, forget about it. Everything they put out was a smash. Then it wasn't too difficult because everybody wanted to play there.
But while Johnny Rivers was entertaining the Hollywood hipsters, a whole new music scene was developing on the streets of LA as young folk musicians were rethinking their musical direction.
And that happened when the Beatles came and played Ed Sullivan. And all the groups said, hey, that's it, we're getting amps, we're getting electric guitars. You know, forget this acoustic stuff.
When we got together as the Byrds, we went to see A Hard Day's Night as a reconnaissance mission. And we checked out all Ludwig drums, okay, check, you know, Gretsch guitar, check. And then there's this weird guitar that looks like a 6-string, but then George Harrison turned sideways and it had 6 other pegs sticking out the back. And it was a 12. And I went, I played 12. I went, I gotta get one of those. So we did. We got an electric Rickenbacker 12-string, and that was what made the sound. They called it the jingle jangle sound after that.
The Byrds were the first of the new LA bands to play at the Whisky. The Sunset Strip turned from hipster to hippie almost overnight. Young LA bands like the Buffalo Springfield, Frank Zappa's Mothers of Invention, and my own band, The Doors, all got nightly exposure there, opening for national headliners. What made the Whisky A Go-Go such an important temple of rock was its role as a launching pad for all this new talent. Soon, young bands from around the country were clamoring to play its magical stage.
We became, you know, the house band on Monday and Tuesdays, and then we'd open for headliners during the week and on the weekends.
Rock royalty would also come to the Whisky to check out the new talent playing there.
All of a sudden, I'm putting my horn away. It's a tap on my shoulder, and I turn around, and it's Jimi Hendrix. And he looks at me, and I thought he was going to turn me invisible or go, and then I'd become going, like that. And he said, hey, you know what? I'd love to take you guys on the road as my opening act. I thought to myself, yeah, sure, right, or whatever. So the next thing I know is we're on the road, opening up for Jimi Hendrix in every basketball arena in the country, and all we knew was basically bars.
It's easy to forget that the classic acts we know today weren't always famous. The legacy of the Whisky A Go-Go is that it gave future superstars a stage to develop their signature sound in front of a live audience. The best example of that might be my own experience with The Doors, when we played what turned out to be our last gig at LA's famous Temple of Rock. It was a Thursday night, first set. Very few people in the club. Late summer of 1966. Jim misses the first set. John and Robbie and I go on stage and do some blues, a little jazz stuff. And at the end of the set, Phil Tanzini, one of the owners of the Whiskey, comes up to us and says, "Hey, I booked 4 guys. The Doors are supposed to be 4 guys. Says, you better have Morrison here for that second set, or you guys are gonna be in big trouble." John and Robbie and I just jump in John's VW bus and we go find Morrison, and he's at the Tropicana Hotel where he kept a room, and guess what? He's stoned on LSD. We bring him back to the Whiskey in time for the second set, and everything's going good. The club is filled with people. The people are dancing. Second or third song into the set, Morrison says, "Let's do the end." I said, "Oh, Jim, it's like we do the end of the set. It's called the end." He said, "No, man, I want to do the end." So we start the end, and the people just love it. And girls are doing that kind of hand dancing that they did. We're going along, and then the song gets soft in the middle of it, and Jim does an improvisation for the first time. A part John and Robbie and I had never heard before, coming out of some strange acid state. But John and Robbie and I are following him, and Jim starts to say, "The killer awoke before dawn. He put his boots on."
He put his boots on. He took a face from the ancient gallery and he
walked on down the hallway, baby. The Whisky A Go-Go is being hypnotized by the delivery of Jim Morrison. The waitresses stop serving, the dancers stop dancing, even the go-go girls in their cages, and they're paid to dance. They even stop dancing. And then Jim finally gets to the end of that improvisation and he says, "Father?"
"Yes, son, I want to kill you."
I thought, oh my God, Jim, don't do it. No, please don't do it. He's gonna do Oedipus Rex. And sure enough, Jim says, "Mother, I want to," and he shouts out the F word with all the gusto he possibly can. John and Robbie and I assault our instruments, and the frozen Whisky A Go-Go comes back to life. We play the set, and we get off the stage, and people are just mesmerized, screaming, loving the whole thing, except for Phil Tanzini, who rushes upstairs and says to us, "You, Morrison, are the filthiest guy on this planet. You can't say that about your mother. Not on the stage of the Whisky A Go-Go. You're fired." Wisely, Robbie says to him, "Phil, it's a Thursday night. You want us to play the weekend, or are we fired right now?" And Phil says, oh yeah. You know, you play the weekend, you're fired on Sunday." And that was it for the Whisky A Go-Go.
This is the
The Whisky A Go-Go was key to the development of the Los Angeles music scene. But where did the idea come from, and who were the men who started it?
2 guys, cops in Chicago. Names are Mario Maglieri and Elmer Valentine.
The fella that got the name Whisky A Go-Go was Elmer Valentine, which used to be a partner here, and he started this whiskey in 1964.
So they go to Paris, France, and they see this club there, the Whisky A Go-Go, with girls in cages dancing, and they say, "This is what we should do in LA."
Elmer was in France at the time, and he got this idea in Paris, in France, and he brought it back here. And that's how the go-go girls got started in the cages here.
Mario sort of became the dominant businessman over the years. He's a tough MF with a heart of gold.
The story behind the whiskey is the rare tale of overnight success. It came on the scene when music and pop culture seemed to dominate everything else. The world was definitely ready to go a go-go.
have line around a block waiting to get in at night. We had all kind of stars and actors used to frequent this place here. God, I remember Ava Gardner in the middle booth, and one of the partners here, Phil, he says, "Who's that broad in that booth?" I said, "It's Ava Gardner." Yeah, tell her, "Get out of my booth." That was his table, period. He don't care who you were. He's a great guy, Phil. He died on me, you know.
For most musicians, the goal really wasn't to play arenas and ride around in limousines and have drug problems. Well, maybe have drug problems, but the goal was to play the Whiskey, you know. That was the goal. Man, you know, we got a record out, but we're doing a weekend at the Whiskey, man. You know, we got a Friday and Saturday night. That's when you knew you made it.
Sometimes making it at the Whiskey proved to be too much to handle.
You know how many times I talked to Jim Morrison? I used to grab him and shake him. "Why are you doing this to yourself?" And all he do is stone, booze, and drug. "Oh, Mario, I love you." That's all I got out of him. But he's a good kid, good entertainer, but he OD'd, went down the drain. Led Zeppelin, John Bonham, Robert Plant, Jimmy Page. You ever saw people party, they know what partying was about. Hell, I remember one time Keith Moon from The Who come on stage, took all his clothes off, stark naked. I said, "What are you doing? Are you crazy?" "Oh, don't hit me." I said, "I'm not going to hit you. Get off the stage and put some clothes on."
The Whiskey opened to live music again in the early 80s with a heavier metal sound filling its stage. Visit the Whisky A Go-Go today and you'll find up-and-coming talent hoping to follow in the footsteps of its more famous alumni.
When you think back, hey, the groups that used to play there, they were up and coming too. The fact that they're famous now, the Doors, the Buffalo Springfield, the Byrds, you know, they weren't that well known back then, so maybe nothing's changed, you know.
As long as there are bands seeking success, Mario is willing to help them reach their dreams.
I think it gives a lot of young people opportunities. That's the best thing about the Whiskey. Young people. I'm going to do the same thing I'm doing here till the day I die. Rock and roll.
Well, show me the way to the next whiskey bar. Oh, don't ask why. Oh, don't ask why. Show me the way to the next whiskey bar. Oh, don't ask why. Oh, don't ask why. For if we don't find the next whiskey bar, I tell you we must die. I tell you we must die. I tell you, I tell you, I tell you we must die. Oh, moon of Alabama, now must say goodbye. We've lost our good old mama. I must have whiskey, oh, you know why. Oh, moon of Alabama, now must say goodbye. We've lost our good old mama. I must have whiskey, oh, you know why. Yeah. Or show me the way to the next little girl. Oh, don't ask why. Oh, don't ask why. Show me the way to the next little girl. Oh, don't ask why. Oh, don't ask why. For if we don't find the next little girl, I tell you we must die. I tell you we must die. I tell you, I tell you.